Welcome to Books on Air. I'm Suzanne Harris. Now, Books on Air is a series where we do a deep dive into the author's passion. We talk to them about why they wrote their book. We talk about what their writing process is like, and we find out one thing that's really important. We ask them what they want their reader to take away from the book. You get a real glimpse behind the creative curtain, if you will. Joining me today is someone I just cannot wait to introduce you to. Her name is Burton, and she has written the most wonderful cookbook. It's called Teens, A League of Their Own, a perfect culinary blend, cooking and baking recipes. Now, Christine has won awards for this book. It's received the notable Indie Award as well as the Gold Seal of Literary Excellence. Christine, you are a true creative, and I just can't wait to talk and share this book with our listeners. Welcome to Books on Air. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
This is just such a cool idea. I'm a former teacher myself, and when I started reading this book, I thought, oh, this woman is a visionary. The interesting thing about this book is that it sort of grew. I think the backstory behind how it came to be is really important. Would you share that with our listeners?
Well, I worked with kids from grades kindergarten all the way through the charter school after high school, and the ones that are still trying to get their GEDs. I worked with a lot of the disabled, the anger management, and I was there to assist these kids daily in majority of their classes. And one in particular was the cooking class. And I would hear all kinds of stories from during the day, and they wanted to help, and some teachers wouldn't let them help unless they had someone. So we went, and I started helping them there, and they got to love it. And then they started asking, oh, I wish there was a book on the market that had stuff other than celery and peanut butter, stuff like that. And they wanted more adult recipes. The high school kids wanted to challenge themselves, and the younger kids, which to my surprise, the 4- and 5-year-olds were the best. They wanted to help mom and dad out.
When I read in your book that they were the ones that paid the most attention, I thought, really? The younger ones were the ones that paid the most attention? And then I thought to myself, of course they did. They're the ones who are they don't still have cell phones yet. You know, they're not, the world is not too much with them. So they're the ones that really paid attention. The thing that I really like about this is that it's such a unique approach, because I think what happens to us, you're not talking to Martha Stewart here. I am not a fabulous cook or anything like that. And I find recipes sometimes to be a little intimidating, or there'll be some ingredient that I don't have any idea what it is. And you talk about making these recipes flexible. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Okay. I have them. Each recipe should be treated as a base recipe. So you can follow them as they are if you're just starting out. But if you're a little bit more progressed in it and stuff, you can, if you're diabetic or you have gout or other type of diseases or whatever, you can adjust the recipe to fit your, even if you're on a diet, you can use non-fat ingredients or gluten-free ingredients. So it's all adjustable to what you want to put in it. And then the herbs and spices, you can put in what you want. If you don't have what I list, I give ideas. Don't let them intimidate you, because they're just ideas. And you can buy them sometimes in a bottle in the store that's already prepackaged with like 5 or 6 different herbs or spices in each little bottle. So I let you know how to utilize that kind of stuff in the book.
This actually was such a collaborative effort. You put the book together. You really wrote the book, but you had kids that were involved, you had friends, you had neighbors, you had all kinds of people collaborating to make this happen. Tell me about how the kids collaborated on the book. What would you have them do?
Well, first of all, we had, if you go on my website, I have a video on there which will show our taster, and he's sitting in a little table seat. He's about 1 year old, and he's grabbing for a cookie, and he's the taster. So from that age up, the kids all participated in all different ages, with moms and dads in particular places, and the kids would come to my house. They would try. I would have recipes that they could read. I wanted to make sure they could read it, and we would test it. If they didn't like what was testing, we would change the recipe. They could add their ideas, and then we just changed it from there. Naming the recipes was fun, and then the photographing. I did not want touched-up pictures. I wanted my readers to know exactly what it's like while they're cooking. I didn't want them intimidated by these doctored-up photos. I wanted them to see this is how it comes out of the oven, and it's all right if it's this color or that color. So then they would try and photograph it, and they would try displaying stuff on the plates with it so that it looked presentable. And they just kind of worked it the whole steps with me as we went along.
You know, I can see these kids in my mind. I'm a former teacher, and I know that that's one of the reasons that I'm so visual with this about learning. But I can see these kids starting out and being a little tentative and taking the steps and going through it and not being sure of themselves. And then by the end of the time working with you and working with the other kids, I can almost see them with their arms over their heads in victory because they're feeling successful. They can do this. Is that really how it worked?
Yeah, they were challenging themselves. And there was another couple of people I want to mention that were involved that normally you don't even recognize, but it was my friends that would do the proofreading. After everything was said and done, we had to go back and proofread these recipes to make sure everything was written correct, because if we screwed up in a spot, you just don't want to have, a cup of salt sitting there. So,
No.
So I wanted to recognize those people that assisted with that. But yeah, everything is, it is just such an important thing.
It's so approachable. The cover is so approachable. The illustrations throughout are so approachable. And you really, this is how you saw it. This is how you, when you sent it off to the publisher, you were the one that really saw how it was to be illustrated. You saw how the cover would look. Am I right in that?
Correct. I had a vision. I wanted to do the book for teens that were like on TV. You see them doing those contests and things. And these would be like base recipes that they could take for ideas and use. Yet at the same time, I wanted it for teens and stuff that aren't going to challenge themselves and just want to have fun and didn't like to read that much and stuff. And so my book is based off the writing of it and the drawings are just so that they can have some fun with it, pretty much that way, yeah. And then I worked with Raquel Rodriguez, and I would send her what I wanted, and she would make pictures, and then she'd send it back, and we would just keep working back and forth until I was okay with what she did.
How many recipes are in the book?
There's 200 that are photographed, and there's a few extra little ones in there that don't have photos.
Wow. How long did it take you to go through the recipes and get everything together, to get the real book put together?
Well, that's kind of hard to say. I'm the type where I gather information in my mind, and then I sit down, and then I just whip it all out, and then I take it from there. So I would say probably, I would say by the time, maybe 2 years that it took to test them all, photograph them, write them, get the software program and write them, and and think of how I wanted to just do it.
I think that's great. I mean, I would have thought 5 years. I mean, there's so much. It just looks like so much work, and I know there's so much love from you in this book. It just
full time.
It just
full-time work.
It really does come through. I mean, and you're doing something that I think is really translatable in a lot of different ways. Seniors will often not like to cook for themselves because they will look at recipes and it's too complicated or it's this, that, and the other. And I think your cookbook is wonderful, that seniors would enjoy it as well. And I also thought about college students. You know, if a kid goes off to school and they wind up living in their first apartment and all of a sudden they have to cook for themselves, it's overwhelming and they don't know how to do anything, and so they wind up ordering pizza all the time. With your cookbook, that would not happen. They would be able to look through, they would be able to find recipes that they liked because they're kid tested. And you also do something that is sacrilege. You tell them to write in their book, "Oh dear, Christine." I love that.
Definitely. The important thing is anytime you do a recipe, and even if you're not using my book, you're using somebody else's, if you make changes to these recipes, it's important you write down, because if your oven is off maybe 25 degrees, you want to write down, I have to increase the temperature. Or if you want a certain ingredient, I use broth instead of wine for this recipe. In fact, you can do that in my book, too. I have like non-alcoholic biscuits and stuff. So if you want to use, as you're older, use the real stuff, go ahead. But mainly write down what you did so the next time your husband or a friend says, "Hey, make that again," you can say, "Oh, yeah, I have it down." I'm not so, I didn't write it down. So,
and we've all done that, haven't we? I love it. And when you talked about the cooking shows, and I have to confess that I love to watch all those crazy cooking shows on the Cooking Channel. They're just so interesting. I mean, something like Chopped, I look at those ingredients and I go, what? And they put together these amazing kind of food dishes. It just is astonishing to me. And I think that when I see those kids, you can see the creativity that starts coming out when they become comfortable. Obviously, these kids that they have on those shows are very comfortable. But I think that would also happen just with a normal kid that was trying to learn to cook. And who knows, you may be encouraging future chefs that will be on those shows, and they could say, "I have Christine to thank for this."
Well, that's one of the things when I started. It was geared for the 21st century for the new upcoming chefs. And when I was teaching the cooking classes in school, the grades kindergarten through 5th grade, I would take those kids, and I was the one that was introducing them to the cutting boards and the different tools that you can get if you're out there, and showing them that, this age you're using plastic knives and things like that. Those knives are really good. I still use some of them at home at my age. So, the tools are kind of important, your measuring cups, things like that. But you don't need to have a certain way, like to cut an onion on the cooking shows. I'll show you. You must cut your onion this way. No. Just cut it however you want, as long as it's uniform in pieces.
Well, it also gets them to apply math.
Yes.
I mean, they're all of a sudden, how many times have you heard people say, "I'm never going to use math"? Well, guess what? Yes, you will. If you cook, you have to use math. And you need to know that there are 4 cups in a gallon or whatever it is. I mean, you need to know that because you're using recipes, and numbers have never been my friend. So whenever I cook, I really have to think about it, because I have to think, all right, is that gallon? And translating from quarts to pints and it makes you use your head and use your math. So thank you.
And my recipes, too, now, some of them are made for like 2 servings, some are for 4, some are for 8, some might be for a crowd. It depends on what you're doing. Like if you're making, I have a recipe in there for a melon salsa. If you really want something different for the summer, mix up your melons, watermelon, honeydews, anything. Just you put it all in there. But when you're following the ingredients, it'll say for a crowd. But if you only want to do it for one person, take a couple little pieces and just do a separate little bowl for yourself, and just, chart it down. So just things like that you can do. And the, like for instance, on the, to show people you can use it as a beginner, first use pasta in a box. And then if you want to upgrade yourself and start challenging, make the dough, and then you can pat it down and just use your own knives or cookie cutters, make your own pasta that way. And then when you really feel having your boyfriend over or whatever, your bottle of wine, and you have the pasta machine instructions right there too. So it's made so that you can graduate from beginning to the end of however you want to do it.
I just love it. I just love the book. And I know that our listeners are wondering, okay, you guys keep telling me about this wonderful book. Where can I find it? Well, it is on Amazon. And let me just give you the full title, and let me spell Christine's name so you can find it easily. The book title is Teens, A League of Their Own, A Perfect Culinary Blend Cooking and Baking Recipes, by Christine, Christine, Burton, Burton. Just put it in the Amazon search feature, click on it, the book will come up, and there's you have an opportunity to do two things on the Amazon site. You can look through the book. There's a nice excerpt. And if you want to see, if you have a learning disability and it's difficult for you to look at the pages and really understand them, there's an audio example. So just click on that audio example so that you can hear what Christine's talking about. And I think you've also done this in audiobook. Am I right, Christine?
Correct. I have it in the audio, digital, and then the soft paper bound so that they can write in it. There is space provided on each recipe, so that you don't have to try to crowd it in between the recipe. There's actual space for writing.
Oh, I love it that you thought of that and you put it in. That's great. Now, where else? If someone either doesn't want to go to Amazon or they'd like to buy it at a smaller venue, where else can they find the book?
Well, they're pretty much all over the world, actually. Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and some of those discount stores, Goodreads. If you're in different book clubs, they'll offer those sometimes at discounts. So it's pretty much anywhere around.
It's also on your website, I think, right?
Oh, definitely, yes, at www.teenscookbook.com.
Now, let's talk about that website. What else is there?
Okay, I have on there a gallery which will show the book trailer and a 60-second video which will show my little cookie tester. And we have the book signings that I have gone to. I showed pictures of the lines and things from Canada, L.A., Tucson, and a short one was at Miami. And it also has pictures of the cooking classes I taught, the little ones in school, and then after school I taught any age. So you will see the younger students coming with parents, and they will be shown how to cook safely. You'll see them standing on chairs and things like that by the oven, but being very careful about it with the adults. That's one thing about the book is if you want, you can start them off at the early age, and then when you feel they're comfortable to do it on their own, then they still have the same book and can use recipes as they get older.
Well, and my brain just explodes thinking about this. You could, if you were a grandparent, this would be a wonderful thing to either give a grandchild or to start working through the book. You could work with one of your grandchildren or several of your grandchildren or a whole group of them and start going through your book as a special time with a grandparent, or you could do that with an older sibling or with a parent. I mean, I just can see all kinds of uses for this. College students, I've already mentioned. I mean, if you're a student in college and you really didn't learn to cook when you were younger, this is a fabulous book. It would make a great gift for so many people for just any time of year. I mean, it doesn't matter. We're talking in December and it would be Christmas, but any time of year would be a wonderful time to give someone this book. This is a gift of more than a cookbook. It's a gift of experiences. It's a gift of learning. It's a gift of exploring something that maybe you found a little bit intimidating. I mean, I can just go on and on and on, and I need to sort of stop, but you have done a really, really wonderful job with this cookbook, and you've done something that I think is very special. And I know that if our listeners, when our listeners become users and they purchase a copy of the cookbook, and this is a cookbook, so you don't sit down and read it cover to cover. You probably sit down and start perusing it, and maybe you look at a particular area that you've thought about that you want a recipe for, and you look to see if there's one, and there it is, and you use it, and you write in the book, and next time it comes up. What do you really want the person who becomes that user/reader, what do you really want them to take away from this cookbook, wonderful as it is?
Oh, thank you. Well, first of all, if you can cook, you can also bake, because it's written in the same fashion, the book is, where I have the ingredients as you are reading them and deciding which recipe you want. You will see how to prep the ingredients. So once you decide and you get your ingredients, by the way, if you get the digital, you can take it right to the store and just look at your list when you're in the store so you know what ingredients. And then you go and you prep them and set them aside. Then all you have to do is follow the steps as they're listed there, right in order. And inside the steps of as I'm talking in there, it looks like a lot of reading sometimes, but what I'm doing is I'm telling you that in this step, if you're doing, let's say, mashed potatoes and you're peeling the potatoes and they start turning gray, what that is, the chemical reactions and stuff. And so what you can do is just add some vitamin C to the water, just keep them in cold water, keep them covered. I'll talk like that in there so that nothing's going to intimidate you, that oh, that's okay. It's all right to do it that way. And then you just proceed through the recipe doing, following the steps. If you get called away and come back and say, I forgot where I am, look at what you just put in and you'll know exactly what step, because the ingredient list coincides with the steps. So they're in order according to the steps. And then basically you use your own techniques as long as you keep things uniform. And I just want people to set themselves up for success and not be intimidated by any of this. It's just that I get excited and motivated and all that when I say there's like so much I want you guys to challenge yourselves and try different ingredients, and I could go on and on. And but that's basically why I wrote the book, was because there is so much out there.
Well, you are motivational, you are inspirational. I cannot tell you how much I have enjoyed our conversation today. It's just been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for writing this cookbook, and thank you for being my guest on Books on Air.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Now remember, you can find Teens a League of Their Own, a perfect culinary blend cooking and baking recipes by Christine Burton on Amazon. You've been listening to Books on Air, brought to you on the webtalkradio.net platform, and you can also hear this podcast on Apple, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. Please remember to keep reading, keep writing, and even more important, keep telling your own stories, just like Christine Burton has. Thank you so very much for being with us today and for listening.